Hello and welcome to another installment of the Meet Our Makers podcast subseries called We Meet Again, where I get to sort of re-interview people who I've spoken with on the main series before, but this time maybe dig a little deeper, skip the niceties. You know, we've already kind of quote-unquote met, so we don't have to do any of that. We can just kind of shoot the breeze, talk about the work, and see what comes up. In this third episode of We Meet Again, Nina Nastasia, who is a singer-songwriter currently based in the Pacific Northwest. I last had her on alongside Jeff MacLeod, who she shared at the time the band Jolie Laide with, and they had just put out, or were about to put out, their debut record. But they actually just put out a second one and have now added 2 members to the band. It's called Creatures. It is out now. And we do touch on that record quite a bit in this conversation. We talk about the album, we talk about what it was like kind of growing the band and sharing duties with songwriting and singing and musicianship. But we do also talk about Nina's solo writing, her journey, her very personal experiences, as well as this brand new solo effort she put out called Songs for a World of Trouble, which is short. It's 8 songs. It's a quick little listen, but it's totally self-released, only streamable and purchasable on her Bandcamp. It's not anywhere else. And we talk about kind of the journey of being an independent artist, especially now. We talk about how her career has changed, what songwriting really means for her, her relationship to it, and so much more. It was so lovely to get to speak with her on such a personal, conversational, personable level. As someone who's been an admirer of her work for many years, this was really a treat for me, and I hope you will think a treat for you as well. So thank you for listening. This is me meeting, again, Nina Nastasia. Thanks for coming to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is your second time hanging out with me for a bit.
Yeah.
And will now be the third entry or whatever of this like sort of sub-series thing that I started doing this year called We Meet Again, where I sort of re-interview people I've already quote unquote met.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the hope that you know the way I put it, and I think the first one was like the niceties are out of the way now. Like, you know, like we
Right.
can just kind of like talk. We can just dive in.
Yeah.
So thank you for agreeing to hop on for a bit.
Yeah, of course. It was fun last time, so yeah, I'm totally into it.
All right. So yeah, you were here last time with Jeff, who you play
Yeah.
with in Jolie Laide, for the debut Jolie Laide record, which was at the end of 2023. And now here we are at the start of first quarter or so of 2025, first third, with a new Jolie Laide record.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when we talked last time, I remember you and Jeff saying that the second one was already kind of underway.
hmm
And so now it's basically here. It comes out this week. It's called Creatures. It's out May 2nd on Victory Pool. So what has the last year and a half or so been like for you? Has it been busy with work?
Um, uh, last year, wow, like so much seems to have happened. Like just being in America is
Yeah,
like, I guess these first 100 days of being in America under this
yeah,
administration has made things look so. I feel like it's been 3 years
for sure.
under this administration. So I think that's made everything really kind of kind of crazy because it's an equal split of like where my brain is at of like, oh my God, what's happening and what's happening in my career and what's happening in the country. It's like kind of an equal split.
Yeah.
But and I don't know which one's more troubling. Definitely the country, I would hope, is more my career. But it's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot more time has gone by since. But yeah, but the I you know Jolie Laide is going to have its first. We're going to have our first tour. It's
hmm
going to be in Canada with a bunch of festivals, and that's super exciting. And that's it's because we the first the first record with mainly Jeff and I was um, uh, remote, like put together remotely. Um, and then and then this one was put together in the studio. We haven't really been a band that has played out at all.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a new thing, and we're working the songs and arrangements so that we can take it out and have it sound somewhat like the record and as full as the record and all that kind of thing. So it's exciting. Yeah, it's super exciting in that way, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've been doing putting together my own stuff too. So yeah, it has been pretty busy, come to think of it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it has felt like a bit of a time warp recently. Yeah, that
yeah.
100 days marker, that was like what, yesterday now or the
Yes,
day before? Yeah.
really intense.
It's
Yeah.
crazy because I forget if I mentioned this last time, but I work I'm a teacher, so I work in education, and so like
Oh, fun.
we really feel it, and it's like
Yeah,
not in the way. I mean, I work in Connecticut, so honestly, we're doing all right now. But like, I
right.
feel we feel it in the sense of just kind of existential dread.
Right,
So
right.
it's been a weird 3 months and change, and I cannot begin to wrap my head around the fact that that's all it's been.
I know. I mean, and now, it's so funny because I don't know if you get this, but when I have a lot of friends in other parts of the world, and it's almost like I now know what it's like to have like a really terrible disease. Because everybody's like kind of like, "Oh, how are you doing?
Right.
How are you doing? Oh, you're still hanging in there? Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's like it's just like this thing that takes over
Yeah.
in every
So
brain. But anyway,
yeah.
we don't have to
So
talk
I
about
know, I know. I talk about it enough, honestly.
that.
Um so yeah, so you mentioned the last record was mostly just you and Jeff. This time you have Clinton St. John and Morgan Greenwood on tap with you guys. What was the process like for you and for you and Jeff, especially kind of going from songwriting and songcrafting as a duo into this full band thing?
Well, it's funny because I think, you know, we always had it in mind to have Clinton involved, but it just didn't quite work out schedule wise and with his schedule and everything. It was during COVID and there was a lot of obstacles. Um, and so uh, it was kind of like, I mean, it was such a perfect evolution of the band really to get those two um, available and in. It really felt like, oh, this is what the band's really actually sounds like.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Not to say anything wrong with that first record. There's nothing wrong with the first record. I love that first record. Um, but it's almost kind of skeletal as to what it can be, with
hmm.
the other members. And it's a strange thing. It's almost like those two other members were always there. They were just kind of, I don't know, sitting out for that record. It almost feels like that when I think about it now, because it's so fully realized um, with them. But it was very interesting because um, you know the kind of writing flow that Jeff and I had was super easy and super just fast.
Hmm.
Uh, and we were doing everything remotely. He was sending me, the music part and or the instrumental part, and I would send the melody and vocal and lyric part. Uh, and now we had like um, Clinton, who is a beautiful writer, lyricist, and writer of songs, and then Morgan, who does these incredible writes these incredible just these electronic parts, and I mean he also does other other stuff too, but the electronic element that Morgan puts into it is really, really super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So um it was funny. It was kind of like we started the process the same way we did on the first record. Like Jeff would come up with these inspirations for guitar parts, and sometimes they were guitar and drums, and he would just kind of get in his own little space and create these pads of sounds and stuff and send it. And you know, before they were on the first record, they were real fully realized. They felt like songs from beginning, middle, end kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it was these were a little more um they were a little more like parts of songs, and in the beginning, like I wasn't getting my head around it. It wasn't happening smoothly, really. Like we were trying to come up with stuff. Clinton had a bunch of songs that he could just sort of bring to the table to work through. And so we had some of those, but we didn't really have a full record. And we got this a grant to actually do a second record,
Mm.
which is to thank you, Canada. And so we had this like grant to do a second record, but we had maybe an EP worth of song, maybe 6 songs or 5 songs, really not very many. And they weren't even full songs. They were just sort of parts and ideas of songs. And for whatever reason, I don't know, like we were, I was in Calgary, we were all in the same place, but it just wasn't really coming together until we got into the studio, which was so strange. So we were kind of like there was no serious pressure to do a full-length album. The only, it was just come up with some songs. Like thanks again to Canada. And so we got in the studio and something happened where we started to, I think, for the first time, really hear the possibility of how things could sound in that studio. And then there was also the added element of Colin Stewart, who owns the studio Hive, and he was the engineer, and he is just I can't say more great things about him. He's just a absolute lovely individual and great engineer, and actually fantastic producer, because I would say he produced the second record,
Mm-hmm.
Creatures, because he really had a say in kind of like being a great guide and editor of like, oh, that's working. Oh, yes, let's try adding some stuff over here, and like, what does this sound like? And so, but the 5 of us really worked very, very well together, and we were able to kind of openly create within the studio this record, which is for me mind blowing
Mm-hmm.
because it is an absolute completely opposite way of working that I had ever worked before.
Yeah.
The idea of writing in a studio to me sounds so like what decadent, you know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm so used to that very efficient way of recording, thanks to Steve Albini, which was a fantastic way of recording as well. It's just a different way of recording, but fantastic, where you know your shit, get in there and get out,
Yeah.
record it all live and get out. And it's you know, but both ways are very, very interesting and valid and great ways to work.
Mm.
And I actually enjoy both ways. So it was yeah, I think we kind of discovered each other through the process, and there was something about the chemistry, I think, of the 4 of us in there, um, that really makes the band sound like the band, which is kind of really interesting. It's fascinating to me, having never been in a band. So
Yeah.
so all my stuff is kind of like comes from, you know, me originally, and then bringing other musicians in, and then all the choices are kind of ended up being mine or Kennan's, so this was it's an interesting thing to think, oh, I have a piece of this project and I have no idea what it'll sound like in the end,
Yeah.
which is interesting to me, and ends up making me feel like, wow, that's far better than what I could do on my own because I've got
Mm.
these three other really interesting brains coming up with some beautiful stuff that I would never have thought of doing. So it's a really great it was a fantastic experience for me
Yeah.
for sure in that way.
Yeah. And I mean, you really feel the addition, I think, of Clinton and Morgan on this record. Because,
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as you say, obviously not to knock on the debut, but that is a spare record comparatively. And we talked about that last time, how it had a real sense of place. It was kind of deserty. It was kind of, there was a lot of space on that record. And this time it's so cinematic.
Mhm.
It's sort of like it's kind of like you went widescreen on this record.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it because it still feels like Jolie Laide, but it's just
Hmm.
a bigger, more expansive, more realized version of the first thing, you
Yeah.
know.
And I noticed on this record, maybe more so than the last one, there's quite a like short story kind of vibe to a lot of the songs. I mean, there are characters that are named and referred to throughout the album here and there. Um, is the record like a whole story, or is it more sort of just these sort of interconnected like vignettes?
I mean, yeah, more interconnected vignettes. It didn't start out as a concept of like, I'm going to tell this story, we're going to tell this story.
Hmm.
Or even, like, and the characters really, and this is so interesting to me too, is that the characters are definitely come from Clinton's brain. Like that's Clinton's world, right? Those characters that came into this record.
Hmm.
And the interesting part of it is that I think that, in the songs that I had a part, like my writing in some of those songs really complement those characters, those characters that are kind of in this like kind of dystopian atmosphere, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think it all kind of works together. And even though it wasn't like we were just sort of sitting in a room staring at each other, like spouting, like writing in real time together, right? We would just kind of
Right.
go separate ways and come up with some stuff. Like, I mean, there's one, I think it's Cheyenne, where I had the first part of that song, and I just hadn't come up with a second part. I was kind of felt possibly, I think in my memory, I think I was a little stuck in it, like not knowing really. And Clinton just like went off with it for a few hours and then, or a couple of hours or an hour, I don't remember, and then back with the rest of it. And it just sort of fit, I feel like.
Mm.
I mean, to my ears, it fit like one person wrote it, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's strangely complementary in that way. It feels kind of fluid.
Yeah. And I presume Clinton is the other voice on this record.
Yes,
Yeah.
Clinton St. John. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
that
another thing.
what?
Well, that was another thing about it that, and I don't, Jeff is very much a historian of the group. Like he's got a really good memory for that kind of thing. I have zero memory, but the Cape May, which was Clinton and Jeff, um, were in that band.
Hmm.
And so we were all together touring and stuff, and there were some moments where we did a lot of camping, all of us, and which was strange idea. It kind of worked. I think it kind of worked. Um, but we would be at campgrounds and like, drinking and singing after a gig or whatever, and like, in a kind of open fire environment. And I think Jeff was recalling that he was like, "Oh, the two of them have that sound great together, their voices," um, and and that is a thing. Like I do feel like our voices are have a really nice marriage in the two of them,
Hmm.
together. Really work well.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a new thing too, because like as someone who, you know, I'm sure I embarrassingly told you all this last time, but I am a massive fan of your work, and I've
Mm.
been listening for a very long time, and I can't recall you really ever sharing the microphone, you know?
Yeah, well, sharing anything, freaking sharing anything, which is it was a very much about, the my partner at the time, who was really the producer of all those records, and I'm super happy about all those records, and I loved what he brought to it, and I learned a lot from him, even though it was just a very, very troubling
Hmm.
relationship, um, personal relationship in there. But part of the kind of controlling aspect of our relationship was that he very much there was it was a very strange combination of nobody was at the same time, like either nobody was good enough to collaborate with, or I wasn't good enough to collaborate with anybody. So it was a strange
Yeah.
combination of the two things to make it impossible to ever collaborate with anybody. And somehow I was in a spell of being kind of allowing myself to kind of be a victim in it. And um, so when he died, it was a strange, horrible event, but a strangely freeing thing
Hmm.
to finally be able to collaborate, because I did not have that feeling of um I didn't have that feeling of like this idea of it needed to be good enough. Like I really didn't care. I don't care if I'm good enough in a way. Like I have my standards of wanting to be a good musician or a good singer or a good writer, but I don't have this feeling that I need to be the best, because I think that's ridiculous. I don't think it's possible, but I think Kenan certainly like lived by this standard of being the best, which is I think just a terrible road to try to go down if you're trying to be an artist,
Mm.
because it just is so limiting. I mean, I don't know how you learn to be better
Right.
if you're constantly needing to be the best,
Right.
which doesn't exist in art. So it's kind of a
No.
crazy idea, you know.
Yeah. It's so
Anyway,
interesting.
so the collaborative aspect is so fantastic, and being in a band is like as collaborating as you can get, I guess, because you can be voted out on your ideas, and
Hmm.
um, it's not just you, and that is a fantastic element of it. If you can really embrace it, it's actually great, because you can, with the right people, learn a hell of a lot,
Yeah.
you know.
One of the songs that really stood out to me, especially in terms of how band-y it
Yeah.
is Old Collapser, which is sort of
Oh,
this.
that's interesting.
That's what?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because it's like the 6 minute sort of epic penultimate track, but it ends up in this very dramatic bridge with all these layers of repeating vocals and these big thunderous drums. Um, and it struck me that, I mean, I don't know if it's like a challenge or challenging or whatever for you to kind of sing or do these sort of epic songs, because in your solo catalog, I can probably count like a few moments that have reached like a pitch like this. Maybe Ocean or This Familiar Way, where the volume kind of ticks up and the drama ticks up. So it was cool to hear you on this like huge song.
Hmm.
So I'm curious then what the journey of that song is, or how it came to be what it is that we are hearing.
Well, it's interesting. So I thought it was interesting you said most bandy collaborative because the song original I hope I'm correct. I think I'm correct in that saying that Clinton had had that song for a long time, but I
Mm,
think that's been his he brought that was a song he brought to the table. It was fully kind of realized uh lyrics, melody, he played it on whatever on the guitar, whatever.
yeah.
And so that was a kind of finished song he brought to the table. And what I kind of discovered, um, and then, as a band, it was very collaborative of terms of how we all kind of put that song together and in terms of instrumentation and um, the production of it. And then Colin had something to do with that too. But what I realized about myself was that, I've always felt like a very limited, well, not felt like it. I am an extremely limited guitar player because I can play my own stuff and I can because I write on it, but I
Hmm.
don't so lazy at learning that instrument and I can never get my head around the instrument so much. It's because I think I have more of an understanding of like the piano than I do because the piano makes a lot of sense to me. All those strings doing different things right up and down. I'm like, oh my God. It's just I just have never, you know, I've never had the discipline to really know my guitar like the back of my hand, but and also because my curiosity lies in the writing on it. So I always end up defaulting to just stopping practicing and writing, which is great and not great, So anyway, but what I sorry, I'm getting kind of long-winded, but what I discovered was that uh vocally I could kind of work my voice and ideas of melodies and harmonies. I kind of had that ability that I didn't sort of realize I had. So uh really, really enjoy coming up with harmonies and layering, especially layering harmonies and trying to come up with interesting parts vocally. So I felt quite free to do that. Um, and yeah, so that was a nice kind of discovery. And I'm actually releasing another little kind of self-release thing. Um, 8 songs and in that I've got some layers that I just sort of started doing that idea with coming up with a bunch of layered harmonies.
Oh, cool.
Um, so it's yeah, it was a fun discovery actually,
Yeah.
and that was pretty fun that to work on that stuff in particular. I do love that in particular, yeah.
Yeah, because again, kind of combing through in my mind, your set of solo records, I is there even one where you layer harmonies of your own voice? I honestly I'm not sure you do.
Never. And there, part of it came from I'm guessing because he's not here now, but but part of it, I think there was this kind of purity,
Hmm.
not overdubbing much, like not wanting to overdub much and doing everything live, which
Hmm.
was a I love it, it's a beautiful way of working. And if you're going to work with Steve Albini, that's the way that would be great to work because he's got God, he had, but it
Hmm.
still exists. Electrical audio is just an amazing place in Chicago to go. And if you're going to record in a room, you've got all these absolutely beautiful mics and great engineers. Like it's a great place to do that and record to tape, so it all kind of makes sense. It all kind of made sense for us to do it that way. Of course, you can go and overdub stuff, but I think it ended up being more for Kennen of a kind of became, even though we did do overdubs on some stuff, but still, it's like I think it was this idea that we stuck pure to the kind of live recording kind of thing.
Yeah. Because even
As
in
much as we could, which wasn't always the case, but
because
and I
even in the
think
most dramatic moments in your solo songs, there's still just the one voice kind of leading
right,
it.
yeah, yeah, and it's funny. Um, I am guessing that that's the seed of where that kind of that we never ventured into that kind of thing. I know that, and I don't remember now how things actually ended up going where that I do know that Kennan actually sang on That's All There Is, which was a crazy
Okay.
idea. So he's the harmony with that. But I think that, yeah, that might be the only one, which is kind
Yeah.
of crazy to me because I love it.
Hmm.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
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 So you mentioned this other project that you have sort of in the works coming down the pipe. Have you, even while working with Jolie Laide, have you been able to sort of keep writing your own solo stuff on the side?
Oh yeah. Like I've got it's almost it's a little overwhelming and I don't manage my time right the best and I do have I've got I'm going through the archives as well of things that are kind of recorded that I might try to put out but I always kind of I'm always writing because I think that's where my bliss really lies in writing so
Hmm.
um, I do have a bunch of stuff to kind of put on records or figure out, I mean, I have about 3 records that I need to figure out, like actually record. And then I have some records that are already kind of recorded that I might go back and see if they're good enough to actually release as something. But
Hmm.
uh, so it is a kind of constant, it's a constant thing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's funny you bring up the sort of archival attempt,
Yeah.
because I feel like, well, on the one hand, I was going to say something else, but now I'll say this. On the one hand, you have a lot of artists who do that kind of thing, who kind of sift through the archives and maybe release like a B-sides album or like, here's this EP of songs I made 10 years ago that I never put out. But they usually are people who have still been working quite actively.
Mhm.
And you have, as fans of your work know, you have quite a long gap between
Right.
records, right? So you have like 2010, and then you didn't release Riderless Horse until 2022.
Right.
So like, is it? Do you have like a lot of scraps and bits and pieces from that long break?
Well, yeah, I do. Because I did I did continue to write during that time.
Yeah.
Um, I stopped because it was just too impossible. I think we might have talked about this last time, but it was too impossible uh, it was too difficult to continue a career with Kenan, my partner, being so, I mean, he kind of ended up taking over a lot of aspects of it, the management part and all that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And it was too miserable to do. Uh, and I couldn't do it without him because that would have been a real terrible betrayal. And it was, it was locked into a lot of dysfunction and
Yeah.
misery. And so I stopped. We did, it's interesting because we did try to do a recording at Electrical
Yeah. You
and
posted a photo of you with Steve not too long ago
right,
from some
right.
sessions.
Yes, and that's a still from a friend that actually documented that time, which I have to say is not an easy watch because
Yeah.
I actually watched it. Uh, um, I mean, he did a beautiful job, and we're kind of discussing what to do with that. If it's, but it was tough. It was tough to look at myself because I really saw kind of how beaten down I was in it. Um, And at one point in that session, it's interesting because you look at the film and it's kind of like I I act like I'm having fun, which is just, and I remember not very much not having fun. That was
Right.
a very, very tough session. And the really hard part of it is like great musicians are playing with me, and it's like I definitely was the weak link in that session because I just we were it was clearly not we did not have our shit together. I was um kind of my voice sounds very weak in it, and it kind of didn't work. But there are moments in there, and there are some of those recordings that I actually think could be released in a way of like I'm almost thinking of releasing it as like songs that didn't work.
Yeah.
No, because it does document a period of my life that is uh I mean, I'm not releasing things to get Grammys, that's for sure, right? That's not going to happen, right? So I'm just, I'm releasing it as a document of where I'm at in my life, and that could be kind of interesting. And some of those songs are valid, and certainly the musicians who played on it did a beautiful job of it. So that and it's recordings, it's recordings I did with Steve, which are that's a very precious
Yeah.
part of it to me because he just was such a remarkable, special person,
Yeah.
general, and in my life, really profound person in my life has
Um,
just,
yeah, I
oh,
mean, you worked with him more than most people did, more often than most people did, especially amidst like solo recording artists. I mean, every one, right, of your solo records was
yeah,
engineered with him.
everyone was with him, and
Yeah.
I, um, I actually, at some point, it became about the social aspect because it was so great to go to Chicago and see a bunch of friends, and hang out with him and Heather. So it ended up being like it ended up being almost like a family trip in the end, making these records, and it was so. And we always loved how they sounded. You know, the whole sort of procedure was so fun, like watching Steve uh slice tape machine that I never got ever comfortable with, because it's like to watch it looks like, oh my God, he's actually putting a knife to the thing we just recorded, like I would have to worry about him doing his job as an engineer is pretty hilarious, right? I'm like, sure, that's where you need to cut it, like that kind of thing. It's so silly. But it was like the whole thing was such a great experience. And then, there was just finishing. I mean, this last recording was not that never came out, was not that
Hmm.
it didn't have this element to it because we never actually were able to finish it. But when you finish the record, you just like sit there in the control room, shut off all the lights, and just like listen to it on the best possible sound system, like I would hear my record on,
Yeah.
and then uh, just watch all the twinkly lights on the board. And it just was super satisfying and
Yeah.
awesome, and and I'm very grateful, actually super grateful to Colin Stewart, because that is such, I now don't, I've had that experience, and actually working with someone I really love working with, who's very different, but just skilled and can come up with an amazing sound, and is a great producer. And you know, I feel pretty lucky to have had that because when Steve died, I mean, the devastation of, oh my God, what am I gonna do now? Not selfishly like, how am I gonna make a
Yeah.
record, but just he just was everything. He was just like this, family member I'd call for like, oh my God, why is it this? Why are things this way in life? And they would tell me, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever. But uh yeah, anyway, it was a gift to know that, something else can exist, different, but just as beautiful a thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that Steve experience is very special and that'll never happen again. But I'm really glad I did all those records.
Hmm.
Because, just can't have enough of those records. I watch myself in the film of that last recording, and it's so funny because he's just sort of doing his business behind me, like setting up microphones and working with cords and all this wire, and and I'm just like sitting intently, just like listening to what has been recorded, and I'm just thinking to myself, watching myself just go, just turn around and look at him one last time. He's gone. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
For granted that he's going to be there for the rest of your life, which I actually did take for granted, thinking that he would be there for the rest of my life. But
Yeah. I know
not good.
we talked quite a bit about him last time because I mean you really can't say enough good things about his work.
Yeah,
I
his
mean,
work and and him as a person too.
yeah,
Like, what a lovely, generous person. Yeah. And
yeah.
you saw it in the memorial. I mean, I might have talked about this last time, but you saw it in the memorial when his wife Heather put together an absolutely beautiful tribute to him. And just a room full of musicians. And I just thought, what an incredible community
Hmm.
that he and Heather created. Like they created a beautiful community around themselves. And you know, yeah, Steve actively created a community where he would, if I was having trouble with something, he goes, I know who you could talk to. And then he would get some other person and, hook us up to talk to solve a problem. Or he would call me and say, oh, I know somebody that's like, they're really suffering now right now because of so and something that you went through. Can you talk to them? Like just that kind of stuff, which is so great.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's just what it's about, right? It's just being alive on this earth. So yeah, he just was a special individual, that's for sure.
Yeah. Um, so now, in the wake of losing really almost like a band member with Steve, I mean, he really was like with you on all those recordings. A musical partner. And in the wake of now being in like a post riderless horse life,
Mm-hmm.
um, what does anything feel different now for you when you go to write or record? Like, do you feel a difference?
Um, it's funny. I don't feel, it's funny. I don't feel any difference in terms of like the feeling I get when I'm writing is just so it's stayed constant. It's always been there. It's been a tool for me to get through some really difficult times, and so it becomes this sort of joy,
Mm-hmm.
it just sort of stays consistently the same, I'm pretty sure. I just did so for um these eight um these eight songs that I did with uh for a new friend that I met here, Andrew Rudd. I did he played drums and engineered, and I went to his house and he has like a home studio that's really good, and we recorded there. And it was just such a fantastic experience, it was a little hard in that that was the first time I did any kind of recording of my own stuff without Steve.
Yeah.
And it felt, I think it was like a bittersweet thing because it was so familiar and I love being in the studio and that whole atmosphere of this incredibly sweet friend recording me, right? Was the same with Andrew Rudd. He was like, he's a lovely person, friend, um, and it all went very smoothly that way. And I've really felt Steve in the room because of that great experience. I could feel Steve in the room, with me in a little tiny booth as I'm like singing and playing guitar. Um, and it was like I think I might have, like one of the days I recorded, I just sobbed all the way home kind of thing because, you
Mm.
know, but it was a kind of happy. It wasn't like it didn't feel it wasn't a loss. It just felt like, you know, wow, my really good mentor friend is here with me as I'm just sort of continuing the process with yet another good person,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be okay. And look at all the stuff you've learned because I actually just I think was super aware of how much I did know my way around a studio and a way in you know there's and it is a bit of a skill to record live, to record and sing and play and record with the band and do, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I learned directly from Steve and learned kind of the Steve Albini handbook of how to uh, get the most out of being in a studio recording in that way, which was incredible lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it was it just was uh, so yes, there is a big change, but like he really is he really is I actually dedicated so I'm I'm making it a habit since Riderless Horse, so this is only the second recording, but I'm making it a habit to put out a little book attached to each recording
Mm-hmm.
that I do. So there's a Riderless Horse book, and I have Songs for a World of Trouble as this next release that I'm putting out May 30th. Pretty sure that's the date I'm going to do. And uh, I have it dedicated to Steve, and I wrote that, what did I say? I said, like, to Steve, who has left the building, but he's always in the room. And
Mm.
it's true. He is always in the room.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and so I think I don't tend to believe that there's a kind of I mean, who knows what there is, but I tend to believe that when you leave, you're kind of gone. I mean, your body's gone and your brain's gone and I don't know. There's all these theories about consciousness, so I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
what really, but uh I guess that's that can be some kind of proof that consciousness does kind of stick around. I don't know.
I mean,
But
in some way, because he's so present in your mind while you work on music. So in that, especially in that way, he's definitely there.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's funny you
So
bring up the books that you were writing. Because I forget if I told you last time, but I saw your, I guess, release show for Riderless Horse in New York.
oh,
Um,
okay, yeah.
yeah, where you played the whole record front to back. But in between, you read like some essays you had written, like, or,
Oh, right. Yeah.
autobiographical stories that you had written. I don't remember the details. I do remember one was about some like older man who like invited you into his apartment. Um, I
Actually, yeah, yeah, and that's so funny. I'm pretty sure that would be so that's in this next book.
okay.
This next book, it's funny. It's funny that I didn't read, or maybe it was,
There were like a few you read.
had I read it from the actual book that I put out with Writerless?
I
Maybe I
don't
didn't
know.
put that book out yet.
I
I
don't
don't know,
remember.
but it's interesting because what I think you're referring to is a story that is now coming out in this new book because the new um this new book is going to have it's a little more story oriented, so it's a little more a few more short stories than the other one did,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny.
Would you, is that something you'd ever want to like tackle on a larger scale, like writing a whole sort of volume of these sort of essays?
Oh my, well, so I guess I'm cheating because the idea I had was like, or my goal was that I will write, I'll release like the next 10 records I release, then I can put all those books into one book.
Mm.
And like make it like a whole have the little books and then have like a one big book of all
Sure.
the but because I thought I like the idea of I like the idea of kind of thinking about um like sort of showing visually and through stories and stuff these books that relate to the whatever record I'm making, you know. It's almost like it's like extended artwork, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think like it's that great thing of, you know, when I was a kid, because I don't have a record player sadly right now, but I'm, you know, more and more I'd love to get a record player, but I don't have one now. Um, I used to have one, but I don't have one. And you know, just playing a record and I used to love like just looking at the artwork and reading the lyrics and looking through the all the little notes on, you know, that you get on a vinyl, you know, that because it's so
Hmm.
nice. And the smell of it when you open it, like it always had some smell. And so, you know, I like this idea of books, and it's been, you know, it's tricky. It's like I think for this self-release, I'm gonna do the only physical copy of anything is gonna be the book because right now I don't think I can, you know, vinyl is a very tricky thing to do of how many to do and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's just a lot and like me housing it. I mean, I'm gonna oh, I'm working with temporary residents um for putting out like most of my records, right? But then I'm trying this thing out now of like doing little self-releases just to people that maybe follow me on social media or whoever hears about it, obviously.
Right.
But you know, on a much smaller scale, um, as a way and not have it on streaming platforms
Mm.
at all. So you can only get it directly through me. Um, as a way of kind of finding a way to kind of make some money.
Yeah.
I mean, in between these label releases that are a little more, you know, they take a little more money to do, and
Yeah.
they, you know, there's a lot more to invest in putting it out that way. And streaming platforms are, I mean, streaming platforms are necessary. That's how people listen to stuff.
Yeah.
But you get nothing. I mean, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, but
Yeah. And
so
it's pretty bleak.
it's so evil and bleak.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah, and until there's some like until some billionaire makes a platform with artists being a part of the share of it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so until that's whoever can kind of uh um kill Spotify, that'd be awesome, right?
It would be awesome.
I mean, I was just like Yeah, Taylor Swift,
I know.
who cares about
Beyonce?
what you think of her music? I think, like, yeah, one of those people. I mean, Taylor Swift's pretty powerful woman.
Yeah.
She could probably
She could start Swiftify.
she could Swiftify, yeah.
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 Um,
Well, Spotify, Swiftify.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Give
really,
artists a fair share of like what they put into it.
yeah, I feel like
X
Bandcamp
amount
has
of
recently been the best alternative, and even that has some issues.
Even that does, but Bandcamp is good. I mean, the band it would my stuff is going to be available. So I say self-release, but it's going to be available on Bandcamp.
Hmm.
You know, probably it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's tricky. It's
Yeah.
such anyway, that's just a huge, how do you solve that problem?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah, right.
Um, so really quick before we have to pack up, I did want to ask, since we've talked quite a bit about these changes in your musical life and your personal life and over the past few years. So I'm curious, what is your favorite thing about your life right now?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a great question.
It might be a very hard question for some people because I don't know what I would say to that, to be totally honest.
I
But
could say it's super, like, in 2 words.
okay,
It's mine.
it's yours.
It's all mine.
I love
That's,
that.
I think that's the thing I absolutely love about my life right now. Everything is, you know, I'm responsible for me. I'm
Yeah.
not responsible for, I mean, I think the most painful part of my life before was I felt complete responsibility to keep a person alive, and that's like a really intense thing to feel.
Yeah.
And um, and ultimately I failed. I felt like I failed at it.
Hmm.
But uh yeah, just this idea that all my choices are mine, and kind of gives me power to try to make things great. Things won't always be, things are not always great, but they're mine. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's the short answer for
I love that.
it.
I want to thank you, Nina, for coming to hang out and also just being so candid and down to chat with me. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you so much. I had a really great time last time, so I'm so happy to come back. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Take care, Nina.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.